counselor.
And just a note, we will be recording this today for those who couldn't make it at 9:30 this morning. First of all, welcome. We are so glad that you joined us today. Social emotional learning is a really important part of who we are at St. Paul's. It's important. It's really important in the work that we do here. So we appreciate your time as we move forward with this new program, Ruler, and talk to you guys about how you can use it at home too. So we will be doing 3 things today. One, we are going to talk about what is Ruler. So you have some background information about what exactly this program is. 2, we'll be talking about what it looks like at St. Paul's. So you have a better understanding of what your kiddos are doing in the classroom with Ruler. And 3, we'll give some tips about how you can support the Ruler program at home with some social emotional crossover with your own kiddos at home. Before we jump into exactly what Ruler is, I do want to give you a little background about just the history of Ruler at St. Paul's. So as you know, social emotional learning is a really important part of what we do here at St. Paul's. It always has been. It's something that we've always done a really good job of. And we have several programs, especially in ECC, that support SEL learning. For example, you've probably heard about conscious discipline, which has a lot of classroom management strategies that support the teachers in discipline and also management in the classroom. We also have Second Step, and we have Sing, Play, Love and Toddler. Ruler is a new program through the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. And we previewed this program starting about 3 years ago. So we're about 3 years in from when we first started looking at it. And we have followed the Ruler program with fidelity. What they are adamant at the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence in doing is rolling it out first with faculty and staff, because we know that our children can really only emotionally be as healthy as we are as the adults who are taking care of them. So we spent an entire year last year rolling this program out with our own faculty and staff, doing a lot of work around emotional intelligence, being able to recognize our own emotions as adults, and learning some really helpful tips about what to do with them, talking about how we want to feel as an employee at St. Paul's and how we can support ourselves in feeling that way, and how we can support our colleagues as well in feeling that way. So this is year 2, technically, where we roll this program out with our students and parents. So we're really excited to introduce it to you. So I want to talk a little bit about, now that you have a history of Ruler, what Ruler is, just what the program is. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And I mentioned that Ruler is from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. And Ruler is really based on the premise that emotions matter. We know this, and I feel very fortunate to be working in education at a time when that is recognized in education and we put an emphasis on emotions. But I do want to give you just a little research and background on why Ruler says that emotions matter and what the research says about why emotions are so important. So I want you to think about your own life a little bit here in the words on the slide, and think about a time when you have had to pay attention, maybe at work or at a meeting, or maybe right now, and you're really experiencing a strong emotion, like maybe you're anxious about something, or maybe you're nervous. You can see how difficult it is to pay attention, to remember things, and just to acquire new material when we, even as adults, who can be more regulated than kids, are ourselves nervous. So we know that emotions matter for that reason. They affect our attention, our memory, and our learning. We also know that they can affect our ability to make decisions. So our emotions, how we feel about things, really affect our decision making, whether it's how we feel when we're buying a house and how that house makes us feel, or the everyday little decisions too, which how little decisions throughout the day make us feel. So emotions matter. And the more we can recognize how we're feeling about something and know how that might affect a really important decision that we're going to make, or a small decision that we're going to make, the better. We know that emotions greatly affect our relationship. So research shows that students and adults who are better at social and emotional skills, have better quality friendships, have better social skills, and are seen as leaders in their classroom, are more likely to be seen as leaders in the classroom by their teachers. And by the adults in their school. So these are some of the reasons why emotions matter. So based on that, we know that learning, the really important academic learning that we do here at St. Paul's and that your children do outside of school as well, is based on their ability to interact well socially and also emotionally. So that leads us to the question, what is exactly emotional intelligence? If we want our students to have it, if we want them to have emotional intelligence, what is it? So I'm going to let you read the information here on the slide, but I think a huge takeaway when I did the ruler training was that rather than perhaps what we learned when we were kids, we're trying to relearn as adults and teach our children that no emotions are necessarily positive or negative. All emotions are there and they're all okay. It's not necessarily what emotion we're feeling that's important. It's how to use that emotion. So an example that the Yale training gave that really stuck out to me was that sometimes really good positive things stem from anger. So as adults, if we're feeling angry about something, sometimes really positive change can be a product of that. And it's the same with our children, but it's a pretty difficult skill to learn how to recognize that you're angry or frustrated or disappointed, and to be able to channel that into something positive rather than a negative action. And that's one of the things that we're trying to teach our kiddos with this program. So emotional intelligence is about what we do with our emotions. And before we can know the right thing to do, we have to be able to recognize those emotions in ourselves and in others too. All right, so you guys all know, I don't have to tell you how critical brain growth is in early childhood, but research shows that 80 to 85% of the physical brain develops during this time. So while the kids are here in ECC, while your kiddos are going through pre-K and K, their brain is developing at a really rapid rate. So this is a really great time for language development. It's a really great time for academic development. And this is a really great time to set those foundational social and emotional skills that are going to create a foundation for success for academics, relationships, all kinds of things later on in life. So Ms. Finley now is going to give you kind of like the meat of what ruler is, why it's called ruler, what that acronym is for, and then also give you a little information about what it looks like in our classrooms here at St. Paul's. All right, Ms. Finley, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Mindy. Yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is, well, identifying the ruler skills and starting with what ruler stands for. So the R in ruler is recognizing emotions in oneself and others. So it's starting with that really important self-awareness piece, starting with ourselves, how are we feeling, and then, helping our students learn that, and then being able to recognize in the other students so that they can see if they're feeling happy or sad or frustrated or nervous, and how they can move towards them in that. And so the second, the U, is understanding the causes and consequences of emotions, understanding like kind of the root of like what happened, how did I get here? Is it just my feeling about the event, or was it an actual event that made me feel this way? So again, it's that self-awareness part. And then the next one is labeling emotions with a nuanced vocabulary. And this is something I really like about ruler, especially how they talk about emotions, as it's not just like happy, mad, sad, glad. Like there's a whole gradient of emotions that I'll talk about in a second that we look at. So, in the cloud of anger, there's actually lots of different feelings that go under that. And so we don't want to just like teach them those 4 things. Obviously it starts that way, toddler, we're talking more in those terms. But as they get older, we know that they're like prepared to be able to express themselves in more than those words. So, and just labeling it is really important to be able to even just like calm your brain down. Like they say, name it to tame it. And so if we can just even say like, I am feeling blank, like if even I say that out loud, or we have the students say that out loud, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling disappointed, that is the beginning of us starting to calm ourselves down so that we can be ready to go back to whatever we're doing. The next one is expressing emotions in accordance with cultural norms and social context. So we're all kind of influenced by social and cultural rules. Often they're unspoken. So this just kind of gives us some guidance on like, okay, how do I act when I'm at school? And maybe is that different when I'm at home? And how do I respond when I'm talking to a friend versus a teacher versus my mom? And so, yeah, it's just helping us to be able to express our emotions in the appropriate ways. And then the last one is regulating emotions with helpful strategies. So this is just Ruler's part in teaching us helpful strategies to help us actually regulate down. And that could even be when we're like super excited and can't like contain our emotions, or maybe we're really angry or really scared. And so Ruler gives some good like tangible tools and strategies to help our students and our teachers and all of us to be able to regulate those emotions down. So that's kind of the like overview of why it's called Ruler and what they're mainly focusing on. So what we focus on right now in the ECC is these three tools. So it's the mood meter, the charter, and the meta moment. So we also have there's a fourth rule that Ruler teaches, and it is called the blueprint, and they start that in first grade where we teach that, and that's a conflict resolution tool that we usually use between two students, two teachers, two faculty members, like whatever that may be, and it's just a really helpful tool that they give us to like walk through specific steps on that conflict resolution. But the mood meter in the charter and the meta moment are kind of what get to us in a place that we can do that healthy conflict resolution. So in pre-K or just in pre-K, we've taught the mood meter in the charter, and then we're going to add on the meta moment into kindergarten. We've done both of those in pre-K and kindergarten, and then just kindergarten, we'll get the meta moment this year. And so those in pre-K, we'll learn that the next year. So our first one that we taught was the mood meter. So it asks the question, how are you feeling today? And so our goal in the UCC and all of St. Paul's is to plot ourselves, to find ourselves on the mood meter. So these are two types of mood meters we have, both of them showing emojis in these four quadrants. So each quadrant represents different feeling you could have. As you can see, like red is showing anger, yellow is showing, happier, green is calmer, and then blue is more sad. So that kind of goes back to kind of the four like more basic emotions. But as you can see in the mood meter on the left, it shows a lot more different, like that gradient again of emotions, that they can be feeling a lot of different things in the blue, a lot of different things in the red and the yellow and the green. And so when I push into the classroom and talk to the students about the mood meter, I asked two questions. The first question to be able to find ourselves is how much energy do we have? Do we have high energy? Do we have low energy? And so as you can see, might be a little small, but as you go higher, that's high energy. So that would be in the red, and the yellow would be if you have higher energy, and then lower energy would be the green or the blue. So that's the first question we would ask them when they came to plot themselves on the mood meter is, hey, how much energy are you feeling today? And obviously they're, sometimes somewhere in between. And so once they figure that out, we ask a second question is, how pleasant are you feeling? And pleasant doesn't necessarily mean good, but it can mean feeling comfortable in terms of being pleasant, feeling comfortable. Feeling good is a way to, kind of describe it to the students. Feeling just like relaxed and like at peace. And then as we go over, it's feeling less comfortable, feeling not as good. And so we kind of ask them like, where are you on that? And so once they know how much energy, they'll know if they're either in the blue or the green or the red and the yellow. And then they can figure out by talking to us, like, how pleasant am I feeling? And then that's when they find themselves on the mood meter. And so the mood meter is a super great tool that helps us again with that self and social awareness. They do this in the classroom, so often they see where their other friends in the class are plotting themselves, so they're able to see like, oh, we're not all really happy today, or oh, I'm not sad and they're happy, so how can I move over into one of those other quadrants? And so it helps build that understanding and recognition. And its primary use, I think, would be to just build that self-awareness for us to be able to get in a practice of figuring out kind of like where we're feeling and where we find ourselves that day. And it gives the teachers really good insight on where all their students are coming in, not just assuming they're all having a great day. And then give them the strategies to maybe if they're in this red or blue, in the more unpleasant, like what can we do to get you guys over to the yellow or the green? Because again, it's not bad to feel these emotions on the left side, but it might not be comfortable. And so we want them to best enjoy and be prepared for the day and move over to that. So that's a short overview of the mood meter. It's been really great. We use it at faculty meetings and used it all last year. And I think it's a really, really helpful tool. You can go to the next one, Mindy. Okay, so the next one is the charter. And so the charter asks the question, how do you want to feel while you're at school? So I came in again to pre-K and K to each classroom, and I read a book about feelings, and we had a really good conversation in each classroom about like, hey guys, like how do you guys want to feel when you're at school? And they threw out tons of ideas. And I made a list of each classroom, all the words that they say they wanted to feel in both pre-K and kindergarten. And I did an analysis of all of those and chose the top 5 words that they said, which you can see on both pictures. It says loved, safe, included, happy, and calm. And so those were the top 5 most said words in both of those grade levels. And so we made a charter, which is just the 5 things the 5 feeling words that they all came up with of like, hey, we want to commit to this at school. And what I really like about it is that it was mainly student led. I mean, I facilitated and teachers were in there kind of helping, but all of those words were come up by the students, and that gives them some ownership over that, and also feeling like I think they're going to be more likely to want to follow that and talk about it when they had some input into that. And so this is an agreement that they kind of all make together, and then each classroom decorated their own. So this is an example in kindergarten on the left that they all decorated, and some of them have like signed it or put like thumbprints on it to just give themselves some extra ownership over that. And so those are all hung up in the pre-K and kindergarten classes. And something else that we do with the charter that I really like is each classroom individually comes up with tangible and specific goals for each of those words. So they each came up with a word for loved, safe, included, happy, and calm, or came up with a goal, so a sentence goal. For example, one class was for happy. They said each day, to make sure that we're feeling happy, we're going to greet a friend in the morning with a high five or a fist bump. And so that's just a way to greet them and make you feel more included and all of that. So I really like the charter. It has a great sense of belonging, community, and accountability in the classroom. And I'm excited to see how this tool kind of makes them all feel more like they're a part of the team. And then this is just me teaching the mood meter. You probably can't see my face, but I look angry, but it's because I'm pointing down to the unpleasant side. So I'm not that mad teaching kindergarten. So I came in and we had them all plot themselves, and it got a little, talking about energy and pleasantness, got maybe a little confusing at first, but they really got the hang of it by the end of it. And I laminated all their personal little mood meters, so you maybe heard them talk about it at home, but I'm excited for it to be implemented, hopefully into the beginning of each of their days, so that they get in a rhythm of talking about how they're feeling. And then the last one, tool that we're going to teach, and this is again just in kindergarten that we're going to teach this, but I think that pre-K will be hearing that, and then of course be formally taught it in kindergarten, but it's the meta moment. And so it asks the question, how do my emotions impact my community? So the meta moment is a process or processes of extending the time between the experience of an emotion and how we respond to that emotion. And then the goal is that we go through these steps in that in-between time so that we make better choices in the heat of those moments. And so the first step is to sense. So to notice a change in your body or mind. So to think like, okay, how am I feeling in my body? What happened? So just like all of those senses to take that in. The second one is pause. So wait to respond and breathe to think clearly. So I know our students have so many different breathing strategies. So we talk about that all the time. Like, okay, how can we pause, calm down our brains for a second so we can think clearly. And then the third one is see your best self. So this is a big part of the mood meter, is envisioning our best self in these scenarios. Like how, and often this happens, we talk about our best self before we're in these situations so that we can remember, okay, this is what I would do when I'm feeling dysregulated. And so imagining our best self in that situation, what would I do if I were here in my calm state? And then the last one is strategize and act. So think of a strategy and try it out. And so, when we present this to kindergarten, we'll have a set of tools and strategies for them to be able to use and act when they're feeling all these big feelings. And so the Minima is a really great tool to, again, help with that self-awareness, but then take it a step further and like, how am I actually going to act in that moment in a way that helps us, but also how it, knowing how it impacts the community. And is it you now, Mindy, or is it me? Okay. Well, so that's all the tools that we're using, and I'm really loving it so far. Using Ruler, it's partly I'm coming in, but then also once I teach it, that the teachers are implementing it into their classrooms each day. So they've really took it running, and the students, I think, have really caught on pretty fast with it. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to hear about the ways we can do it at home too.
Thank you, Ms. Finley. I just want to add before we move on to the home part of this and how you can support Ruler at home is that, of course, our teachers support this program and do a wonderful job with implementation, but we would not be able to do this without Ms. Finley. And we are so fortunate and grateful to have her go into the ECC classrooms, every single classroom once per week. And that time is either used for Sunshine Circle time, which is another wonderful SEL program that we have that directly ties into the objectives of Ruler and conscious discipline, or she does a Ruler lesson and teaches the mood meter or created the charter the very first weeks of school. So Ms. Finley, we're grateful for you. And she's a great resource for you all too, if you ever have questions or need some guidance about your kiddos. Okay, so we're going to move into the third part, which is how you can support Ruler at home. So Ms. Finley mentioned the acronym of Ruler and how it moves from recognizing your emotions to eventually regulating your emotions. So these next two slides, the first one is how you can support emotion awareness at home, and the next one is how you can support emotion regulation at home. So these are some ideas of things that you can do at home just to start to be cognizant of modeling and promoting emotional awareness with your kiddo. So I think the first thing that can be hard for some grownups, because this might be not our natural tendency or maybe what our parents did with us, I know that's my personal situation, is to share our own stories of how we have felt certain emotions and how we manage those feelings. So this could be in real time too. So an example I give sometimes is sometimes we experience a lot of emotions on the way to school in the morning when we hit stoplights or when we're stressed because we didn't get out the door as quickly as we could be. And just naming those out loud. I'm feeling frustrated right now because I'm hitting a red light, or I'm feeling frustrated right now because I didn't get up as early as I thought I would and we're running late. So I'm going to take the moment to take a few deep breaths so that I can make myself feel a little calmer is really powerful for our kids. It's powerful for them to realize that we as grownups, they're role models, also experience big emotions, and for them to see how we handle them in a healthy way. I'm not saying we're going to handle them in a healthy way 100% of the time, but if we can speak out loud when we do and share with them how we do that, can be really impactful. Another thing is, learning facial expressions does not come at birth for our kiddos. So some of our work around here is about recognizing what a facial expression looks like and what it means. So what does it look like when one of your friends is angry? What does it look like when they're feeling lonely? What does it look like when they're feeling excited and happy about what you're doing? And how can your actions impact others. That's a really important skill in the ECC as kids get older, and then as they add emotions to their vocabulary. So that's something that you could do. Make a game out of it. Have your student act out facial expressions and different emotions, and then you take a turn doing it too. I think one thing that we often recommend to parents is role-playing scenarios. So if your child is having a tricky scenario socially, emotionally, maybe it's related to academics that's causing some big emotions at school, and you're hearing about it from the teacher or from your child, role play that scenario. Maybe you could play the role of your child, and the child could play the role of the friend or the teacher, and you can reverse roles to practice it at a time when your child is regulated. Because usually when those things happen at school, your child's going to be dysregulated, and it's going to be harder for them to handle it in a way that might be best practice for them. Practicing them so that they have some tools in their pocket and some hindsight, and they're ready the next time those situations happen, can be really helpful. I also think that just helping your child name their emotion, we have to remember that even through early elementary, even in middle school for sure, our kids experience a lot of emotions that they don't realize they're experiencing. So if your child is experiencing a big emotion, whatever that might be, you naming it for them can be helpful. I can see that you're feeling disappointed, or you seem nervous about the play date. That's okay. How can I help you? We don't always have to solve their problems, but just naming it can be really helpful for a child. And in some cases, when we're really lucky, can just fix the problem altogether by just recognizing it for them. They feel seen, they feel recognized. It can help turn a lot of situations around. And finally, you can use the mood meter at home. So we're really excited. You can see the mood meter behind me. Ms. Finley showed you a few pictures. Mrs. Polly, our director of communications, is on this call, and she has created some really great magnets of the mood meter that will be sent home, one per family at parent-teacher conferences if you're here, and if not, they'll be sent home in backpacks. So you could put them on your refrigerator, and you as a family can use the mood meter at any time. It can be a daily check-in, it can be a breakfast check-in, it can be part of your daily routine, or if someone is experiencing a big emotion, you can use it in real time as well. All right, so we're going to move to once we've expressed those emotions and we know what we're feeling, how can we regulate them? How can we teach our children to handle them in a calm way? So one thing is to just teach our children what calm feels like in their bodies. Sometimes it's hard to recognize that, but it's important that they learn to recognize that. And so we're naming that out loud so that they can know what they're striving for if they do want to feel calm. The second tip you can see a picture of here at St. Paul's, and this is part of our conscious discipline program, we have a lot of what we call safe places all around the school. And usually it's a quiet spot that a student can self-select to go into when they're recognizing that they want to move to a different part of the mood meter, when they're recognizing that they need a little time away. Sensory items, glitter jars, squishy balls, anything with that really stimulates one of the 5 senses can be really helpful for these areas and can help regulate a mood, a big emotion for a kiddo. Similar to what I said on the last slide, just acknowledging a child's feelings, but then saying, how can I help? Giving them some power to name a regulation skill, but also letting them know that you're there if you need it can be really helpful. And we do a lot of breathing. It's also part of our conscious discipline program here at St. Paul's. It directly ties with Ruler. We have specific techniques like the balloon breath. You might have seen us do at chapel sometimes. Breathing can be a really helpful strategy, and there are a lot of breathing techniques that are really appropriate for pre-K and K kiddos. All right. I know that books can be powerful in so many situations. I'm going to let you read through these just in the interest of time, but don't forget that there are a lot of great books out there, and even a book that isn't specifically about social emotional skills and isn't aimed at SEL. It can be a great opportunity to ask students throughout the book, whatever happening is book, how they think the characters might be feeling, how you think they're feeling based on their facial expressions or their words. You could even plot the character characters on the mood meter. I know some of our older students, as they're reading novels, are doing this for the characters, and they're writing about where the characters are on the mood meter at different parts of the book and why they're like that, and they're connecting it to the plot. And we can do that with children's books too. We'll send this PowerPoint out. But Ruler actually recommends these books that are tied to these different emotions. So if you feel like you want to focus on a specific emotion with your child, whether because they are kind of in that quadrant quite a bit, or because you kind of want to build their skills to move to a quadrant, here are some great books that support a lot of different emotions. And we'll send this out so that you can get the names of the books. All right, I want to make sure that I stop sharing here so we can see everybody and that we have the opportunity to answer your questions. I'm going to stop recording now.